I have the tools. I don't have to continually have somebody give me more tools to figure out how to deal with the issues.
Well, that's good for you. Shit.
Can I propose an analogy real quick, just to shed light on my perspective? Okay, think of it like this. I went to therapy because I experienced anxiety from a really young age. I did not know how to deal with stress, right? Think of it like a chronic disease, right? You can learn to manage it, but it never fully goes away. I still feel anxious, but now I have the tools in order to remedy that and ease those symptoms. It's like living with a chronic. I hate drawing that comparison.
Have you ever tried alternative forms of medicine though than therapy?
Alternative forms of medicine? Can you please elaborate and provide some examples?
Yeah, like give you an example. Have you ever tried bunny blasting?
No.
Oh my God.
No, please explain though.
That's where you take.
Is that the thing that you do? Is that your thing?
Blow the brains out of
you
bunnies.
think it's
I believe
fun,
I asked
right?
for examples.
Have you ever tried
plural.
that?
I believe I asked for examples plural. Please provide more.
I think that's all he has for
I don't
us.
know.
It's okay.
You know, going out and shooting at random things, or
Can you provide an
focusing
example?
energy in building something, or any number of different things.
Yes, I do build. I have done the building things. My dad does woodworking, and I've gone out and learned how to woodwork with him, and that has been.
Well, what did you learn how to
therapeutic for me.
woodwork?
My brother, we built the furniture for his bedroom. So we built a bed frame, a desk, and a little nightstand for him.
Well, what did you do for the woodworking portion? You specifically.
Woodworking, me specifically?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I used the saw. I learned how to use the bandsaw.
What kind of stuff?
What did you say?
What kind of saw?
A bandsaw. And I
Do you
learned
use a
how to use
jigsaw?
like a handsaw. I did use a jigsaw in order to stabilize the wood, yes. And then I learned how to use a sander. My dad is very, very into carpentry, so he did teach me basic things. Am I a master woodcrafter? No, I never claimed to be.
I'm not asking you if you're a master woodcrafter. I was just asking if you've ever vented maybe your frustrations in a different way.
I think that there are yes, and I'm not just saying like I have many different ways that I process emotion. I just don't go to therapy 24/7. I don't think anyone does. I like to lift weights.
Part of therapy.
I'm going to jump in on this. Okay.
A part of therapy.
I mean, if you're trying to actually tackle something specific, you said you had anxiety, you went to therapy for it. Perhaps you saw somebody who specialized in treating people who have panic disorders, anxiety, etc. I don't really have any objections there, but I do think there are some sort of this idea, like, because you'll see on like dating apps, for example, to bring it back to dating, women will just like wholesale say, green flag if a man's in therapy, or men should be in therapy, which sort of pathologizes men in general, saying, well, there's something sort of innately wrong with men and they need to solve their maleness by, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to straw man it, but you will see these things from women on dating apps, for example. Just going to talk therapy because you're just vaguely not really trying to address anything specific like you were with anxiety, but you're just vaguely unhappy or vaguely depressed, or just because society is saying, or women are saying, I'm attracted to men, men should be in therapy, it's a green flag. I think there's an issue there. Talk therapy, I don't think is effective at all. But I do think, for example, as you mentioned, therapies that can assist with specific issues, maybe someone who's coping with who's grieving, who's lost a family member. There are therapists who can specifically help with how to overcome that sort of thing. I think that, and oftentimes these are covered by the hospice or in any case. But it does kind of lead into our next thing here. I've heard that men's hesitance to go to therapy or their unwillingness to go to therapy is evidence of toxic masculinity. Do you agree with that?
Here's what I would say. I would say that an adherence to go to therapy has been due to the notion that a lot of men are just taught that therapy is not for men. And I also have a response to the dating prompts. Do I think that everyone needs to actively be in therapy? No. I don't think everyone actively needs to be in therapy. Do I think that at least everyone should at least try it once in order to see if it works for them? Yes, I do. I don't think that everyone needs to be in it consistently, though. That's like how you said, like you have processing techniques that work for you better, and I'm glad. And like, I'm not saying that therapy has to work for you. Like that would be really ignorant of me to think that one thing would work for everyone. You know what I mean? Like that's not my argument here.
All right, well, I'm just
saying that everyone should at least try it once.
Or consider it.
Well, I'm going to move it off of therapy conversation. A couple more questions, and we will try to wrap things up here pretty soon. Bringing up toxic masculinity, do you believe that that is a thing, though?
Yes.
Toxic masculinity going around the table?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Not a thing? Okay. Do you think there's toxic femininity?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
But why do we tend to hear more about toxic masculinity than we do about toxic femininity? Why do you think that is?
I think that's actually a really interesting question. I think because feminism is such a new field. Like, it's only been around, like, the term feminism, when was it coined? Like, I'm not even sure personally, but it's a relatively recently new field, right? When you have new fields emerging, you don't look at it with the same lens as you would a field that is, like, more established. I think that a lot of times with toxic femininity, I think a lot of times women will beat each other down, like little digs at each other, passive aggressive, making each other look bad in front of other people. I'm sure everyone at this table has experienced a woman being toxic to them in some form.
That's kind of a weird analogy, though, right? I mean, feminism's been around a lot longer than, let's say, the microchip, for instance.
Like, really, though?
Are you comparing feminism to a microchip?
No, like, I mean, I also assumed that it was within the past, like, few hundred years, maybe.
Yeah, I'm saying
how old do you think the microchip is?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't study microchips. It's... Okay.
I mean, if you had to guess, right, the microchip would be pretty recent, right?
Yes, okay. Can I please finish my point?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I still would like you to answer to this, because you start by saying, well, feminism is kind of a new term. And because of that, we're focusing on this kind of limited prism, which is really strange because I think that language and I think that ideas are just technologies, just like a microchip. They're all just technologies. So
okay.
It still kind of begs the question. I don't really understand why we would be hyper-focusing on toxic masculinity just because feminism is new. That's the part I don't understand.
I mean, I don't know. I think... It's not, it shouldn't be focused on just toxic masculinity.
I think that toxic...
If that's the case, like, you know.
I agree with your guys' points that toxic femininity does need to be talked about more. I've never said that. I think it's honestly a bigger issue than people make it out to be. I think that a lot of the times the biggest... I think in a lot of instances, too, a lot of issues that women have can be attributed to other women in these instances. But that's because...
It's like looked down upon almost by like the feminist, whatever that would be, culture, that if you are a woman and you say something against feminism or what the like social norm definition of it is, then you're not on the side, I don't know, on the right side of it. Or, I don't know. I'm trying to like.
I think that a lot of times too, insecure women will gain confidence by putting other women down, and I think that's why it happens a lot of the time.
So it's just as bad as toxic masculinity. It's not like...
I found something kind of interesting. I was just trying to Google. I did a Google search of toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. And there's a full-on Wikipedia article for toxic masculinity. But if you try to search for toxic femininity, it redirects to internalized misogyny, which I think is interesting.
Why are you using Wikipedia as your source?
Well, I mean,
that is a bad
source. It's often cited, but I mean...
Getting like a societal consensus upon something, Wikipedia is pretty useful.
I mean, just anyone can put that information in there.
Well, Brian, how dare you think toxic femininity is a thing?
I think the first thing we were taught in school was to check your source.
No, yeah, I'm not saying Wikipedia is a... Well, obviously, because there's no toxic femininity, it's not very accurate.
Hold on. So UCSB has a feminist studies program. Have you taken any feminism courses?
Yes, I have.
Okay. How do you recall the name of the course? Or
I took Feminist 181. It was applied feminist theory.
Was there a more introductory course that you took, or that was the only feminist course you took?
I took Feminist 62. It was women of color.
So this used standpoint theory?
What was that?
Feminist standpoint theory?
In the upper division course, yes. I took it as a GE.
Okay.
Wait, so, but no, like is there an intro to feminism or anything like that?
Well, you take the lower divs before you take upper divs. The lower divs are considered your intro course before you get to the upper div course.
Well, you said so you took the color, what is
Women of color class is a lower div. It's introductory before the higher level.
So you took that one, and then you took the applied
yes.
feminism. What is applied feminism? What is that?
Applied feminist theory is applying theories that center around the perspectives of women and using that as a lens to view issues in society. So this can go with any theory. You could do this with Marxist theory, anything. It's just using a theoretical lens to view an issue.
In this point, the standpoint lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, so you took issue with me citing to Wikipedia, kind of redirecting toxic femininity to this term internalized sexism, but isn't this a term that feminists use, internalized sexism or internalized misogyny?
Yeah, I have used that. I have heard that term used before.
So it's replaced. You don't use internalized, or you don't use toxic femininity. You used internalized sexism or misogyny.
No, I would probably use toxic femininity.
Is toxic femininity focused on in feminist studies?
I would say yes.
More so than toxic masculinity?
I would say equally so. It
equally
depends.
So.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. And then what are some of the, did you guys talk about patriarchy theory?
Yes, it's a feminist.
The whole thing is toxic femininity, ultimately, right? Because it's standpoint theory. So the entire prism or lens in which you're looking at the feminism is only and specifically through the prism of women.
It's looking at things through the perspective of women. This would be the same as if, but I will say that have any of you guys taken like a feminist theory course at all? No?
I'm very familiar.
Have you taken like a course or done like personal research?
Personal research.
Okay.
Wait, I have one quick question here.
Yes.
You said looking at things through the lens of women, or
looking at things through the perspectives of women. Yes.
But that's what standpoint theory is, Brian.
But
so
can
that,
this be like
standpoint theory is the prism, the lens in which you're looking at the worldview. In this case, the worldview is only coming from the perspective of women.
But like, can this apply to math? Like, is there a
if you wanted it to, I don't know how it would, but we didn't focus on that.
Okay, I'm just curious. I don't know.
I guess theoretically you could apply it to that.
Okay, and so, there is, so you've taken these classes, they talk about the patriarchy theory, is that correct?
Yes, they do talk about patriarchy.
And so, given your experience in these classes, what's your sense of, like, can you define what that is? What is the patriarchy? What is the patriarchy theory?
Okay, so the patriarchy is essentially the idea that women are inferior to men, and it's a set of notions, ideas, institutions that sustain this belief. But I will say too, these classes don't demonize men. I think that's a very common misconception.
Well, I have to follow up with you on that though. So you said that also this applied feminism thing, it'll look at like Marxism, for example.
I use that as another example of how applied theory works. I did not use Marxism in my class.
No, that's not really what I'm getting at, but so my understanding with Marxism, it's sort of, it looks at things from a lens of oppressor oppressed. Mm-hmm. Okay. And my understanding of feminism, and you mentioned patriarchy theory, isn't that precisely what patriarchy theory is? That women are oppressed and men are the oppressors?
I think it's a little more complex than that. I think it's the idea that, so patriarchy isn't women being oppressed. Patriarchy is the idea that men are superior to women. And it's the ideas. Yes, it leads to the oppression of women. But patriarchy itself is not the oppression of women. Patriarchy can take many different forms. It's not always in the sole oppression of women.
Okay, but so are women oppressed under a patriarchy?
Yes.
Okay, and who, if women as a group are oppressed, there must be another group that is oppressing the women, which is who?
It's oftentimes men, but the way that I have learned about it personally, and this is my understanding of it, I don't think it's your understanding. I think that...
Are you going to say internalized misogyny, that women have internalized misogyny?